Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, e-begging special live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, oh, my camera's already starting to crap out. Okay, right, let's give up on the camera. Then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. So, in case you can't already detect, I'm having some pretty severe computer issues and have been for quite some time. And I've been running a Give, Send, Go campaign to hopefully resolve some of those issues, and I've raised the money to replace a couple of hard drives that have fried themselves in what was an incredibly hot computer. And also, about 3 months ago, the person who purchased me this computer replaced the graphics card, which cooked itself, which is fantastic. Other than the fact that it had got some signs of being faulty from day one, which I kind of ignored, thinking that the troublesome computer itself was the cause of the issues. Now, as it turns out, it's not. It's actually a dud card and has been causing black screens of death periodically since I've had it. Now, we are actually joined by Quantum Eraser. Oh no, it won't let me admit them. Go on, let's try that way. Yes, that's worked. And we are also joined by Quantum Eraser and Arwin, who will hopefully set aside his own poverty to help me e-beg my way to 500 quid to replace this graphics card. So, welcome, one and all.
Oh, I'll set aside my poverty. I mean, who needs food anyway, right?
Well, as I say, what I will do, Arwin, immediate shout out to Fiber Oats for hitting the super chat. He also hit me up on PayPal. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful you've put your own poverty aside for this particular first world problem that I'm experiencing. And what I will do, Arwin, on one of the future live shows is do a little bit of e-begging on your behalf on one of the live shows as a make-up for it. But I'm hoping you will set aside your own also less than first world problems. Obviously for you, hunger's a very big problem, but hopefully you can set that aside for me to do what I've done for people like Ranty in the past. And we discussed that like recently. Hello, QE, by the way.
Hello.
This may or may not be a long stream. I'll run this until either one of three things happens. Number one, the computer crashes, which is to say it gives me a black screen of death like it did on Friday's live stream after exactly 1 hour of live streaming. Or two, I get my way to 500 quid, in which case I can end the stream and go, great, I can walk into my computer shop on Monday, and as has been generously offered, I can order at trade price a replacement card for the one that is failing. Or not failing, it's just faulty. Anyway, or number three, your show starts, in which case, be here or be sphere for the Quantum Eraser Ballbusters show, which I may or may not attend, depending on how this computer holds up in the next hour or two. So anyway.
Can't you get there on your laptop?
Say again?
I'm sorry, not on your laptop. Can't you get to the show on your iPad?
Anne?
Are you kidding? The whole show on the iPad.
Well, that's actually
the whole show. Ballbusters.
That has actually got its own set of issues. So at the moment, the iPad periodically will not charge. So that has got its own set of issues, which I will not be doing an e-begging campaign for. I need the computer to work first and foremost. It's just, that's a different issue, right? But I may, this computer might hold up. So sometimes it can run under low loads for hours and hours and hours and not cause any problems. And then, like now, it's encoding and recording, and therefore may very well die at any moment. But while I have the ability to do what I do, and although Craig has scrubbed off, my tech guy has scrubbed off every ancillary piece of software for the graphics card to the bare bones, which means that certain things on the computer don't function, it is actually running as a show. The link is in the info box. People can join and tell me I'm an e-beggar, as Russian Vids did. Russian Vids came on my comments for the little video I put together, not knowing that I could do this. So I'm like, I'll do one on my phone, backup of backups, and tell people, look, I'm poor. I need money. If I get 500 quid, I can resolve this issue without losing any more sleep, without any more heartache and distress. I said that for the hard drives. I said that for the RAM. I said that for the PCIe card. I said that when I needed a new computer, but 14 months later, here I am. And people were very reassuring in the Discord server when I ranted, fortunately not recorded, about how distressed I am about this. And people were like, no, we will support you. People won't get sick of the fact that you are putting your hand out more than often, which is true. And like I say, Russian Vids was like, you've got enough money. Why are you e-begging? I'm like, how do you know I've got enough money? I haven't. I'm poor. Do you think I'd be e-begging for a graphics card that's 500 quid if I wasn't poor? This is humiliating. Like I say, every time I e-beg, nobody wants to do this. Russian vids.
This Russian Vince thinks he is. Does he think he's like your accountant or something?
I'm sure he just sees it as so many people eBay because they are on the scam, and they do just want to pocket the cash. Now, I think again, I'm going to keep referencing my rant on Friday. Maybe I should have recorded it. I didn't. But people can hear the distress in my voice. They know I'm not e-begging because I just want to pocket the cash or I've got a drinking problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's patently obvious.
Well, that's the other thing. If this falls over during the show and I go, oh crap, it's all gone black, and you can still hear that, which, ironically, when that happens, because the card's fallen over, the encoding stops, so it doesn't hear me distressed about it. Not that that's probably a bad thing. You know what I mean? Because I'm normally about to cry. But anyway, so that's why I've done this. So I've done a quick impromptu show. I've put a link to my PayPal. I've put a link to the GoFundMe that was already in place anyway. When I checked the date of the last transaction on it, it's like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, it really has just been 2 weeks since I last did this. Unbelievable. So in my mind, I'm like, well, strictly, it's not a new campaign then, is it? It's the same campaign. Hooray! So I didn't do another one. It's the same one.
It's the same one.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. And that's how I'm justifying it.
Turning out into the most expensive free computer that you've ever gotten.
I'm telling you.
It is. It has, so far, it has had £1,500 spent on it. All e-begged, every penny of it. Now, in the case of the graphics card, that wasn't necessarily... It is e-begged because the person who bought the computer, when I said the card's failed, it spent 12 months at 107C, it's died, it needs replacing, please give me money. I just cancelled that campaign almost immediately because he just bought a card. In fact, he said, don't do a campaign, I'll just buy you another card. And he did, and it didn't fit. So he said, I'll just buy you all of the adapter tools that cost a lot of money to get it into the machine. And he did, and they arrived, and I put it in. And immediately, it solved 90% of the problems because the whole system wasn't overheating anymore. So I've reached the point where I'm like, I keep pouring money into it, a lot of it not mine. And you're like, okay, it's cost so much. It's like, well, Bev's in my comments as well, go, just scrap it. I know a good guy who can make you a good... Piss off, Bev. I know what you're doing, you bastard. But no.
Once you start the surgery, right, it's like you've already invested so much in it, you can't quit it anymore because then it's just lost then.
Exactly.
So
it's like...
you just really want it to work, but if you really want to learn from this, then just don't do it again.
Exactly. It's like,
if
Mr.
you ever
Jones,
get to the point of a new computer, then make sure that it works right away. And don't try to like, oh, it's not really working. Oh, maybe you should try this. Maybe you should try that. Because you'll never stop. It'll never stop.
That's the next step. So that might as well go through now while I'm here begging. Say, please smash my PayPal link. Please smash my GoFundMe link. And smash the super chat, of course, just generally keep my bills paid because that's actually the whole purpose of getting it all done. So I can just keep doing that and keep getting people to give me super chats, which is basically what I do for a living. So a few people in the comments are like, just get a job. I'm like, this is my job.
That's what I try to tell my trolls too. It's like, hello.
But that's the long-term plan. Just to come back to what you just said, Arwin. Exactly. The long-term plan I discussed with my tech guy yesterday, because he was here till almost midnight, and straight after finishing work on a long week in his computer shop, doing exactly the same thing for other people who pay him, which I don't. In this instance, I'll be getting a trade price on something. You know, the guy's bending over backwards to do everything possible to keep the costs low and the thing working. But as you say, Arwin, it reaches a point where you could look at it and have, like it's my wife on the operating table and they've given her a new hip and they've given her a new transplant heart. And now they're saying, well, if we just transplant her brain, you're like, no, there's got to be a point I draw a line. Well, what that line will be is this. In other words, if I believe, and so does the tech guy that's been looking at it, Craig, that this is just a dud card. It's just bad luck. Now, it's not that it's been cooked. It hasn't. It's actually been undervolted, so it hasn't been overstressed. It hasn't been overclocked. It's been treated as kindly as any card could be. So the fact that it's got a fault means it's faulty. That's just how sometimes it goes. Now, the fact that I've gone through a lot of components actually increases the odds of me getting just a faulty component, which is what I think is the case. Now, as I said in my video that I did earlier, it may be the case that it can have the cooler slap back on it, and it can go back in the box that's still sat at Craig's shop because it was only fitted a couple of months ago, and it can be RMA'd, in which case, if Paul gets back in touch with me, he can maybe get a refund for it because it was him that paid for it. You know, if not, he might go, well, you know, you put it on eBay and you can recoup some of the money you lost while you weren't streaming for weeks on end. Because that's the position I'm in. I'm at the desperate stage where if I don't solve it now, the amount of money that I'm losing from not streaming will massively outweigh the big cost of just doing it and swallowing my pride and doing an e-begging campaign for 500 quid. It will escalate beyond that pretty quickly from this point. So I've got to do something urgently, and that's beg for money. So yeah, sod you Russian vids, I am poor, I will beg. That's how it is. Don't want to, that's how life is. But anyway, back to Arwen's point. If this fails, in other words, if I stick a new card in and something else goes wrong, I don't care what, but anything, then it's time to replace the case, which is essentially the cooling components too. Now, while it might be £1,000 worth of case, i.e. the computer itself, forget every component, just the case is £1,000's worth of components. It doesn't matter. That bit would be scrapped. In other words, it'd be like, okay, I love the fact that the guy was, from the goodness of his heart, Paul, went out of his way to achieve a silent PC for me. However, for about 500 quid, about half the money, I can build a custom-built water-cooled rig that will be silent. And that is precisely what I would do next. In other words, I would then spend not 500 quid on whatever fails next. I'd take every component out of this system and build a new box around it with new cooling components around it. And then, therefore, that would be effectively a new functioning computer in a new box. Now, while this has been going on, when I've been going back and forth into Craig's shop, he's got not one, but two customers with crazy PC boxes. One of them looks like, it's just a cube, but if you imagine a cube tilted not at like 45 degrees, so the bottom of it is a point, that's the shape of this one customer that Craig's got's computer, and it's giving him horrendous issues because it's weird and quirky. And what he's done is he's done exactly that. He's taken it out and put it in a system with a water cooled setup. Like is the done thing if you want a quiet PC or you run a high powered PC. Now for me it's quiet as opposed to high power, but that's what he's done. He's just taken it out of one weird case and put it into a really normal looking case. And you're like, that's what I'll have to do next if this doesn't solve the problem. But for now, you say when you've done so much surgery, you're like, do we toss in the towel after we've replaced her hip and we've given her a pacemaker? She's had 2 new kidneys. You know, let's just pull the plug because we've got to open her up once more. I mean, no, this will be, however, my last attempt to make this what started off life as a passive PC. It's now got 6 fans in it. So it's like, at that point, well, I could probably achieve more silence with a water-cooled system. You know what I mean?
I get it. But I just wanted, because you said earlier, like faulty parts, right? But there's another thing you might not even realize, but sometimes it's not actually the parts that are faulty. They're just not properly compatible. Like they might work, but they're always going to give issues, and those issues can never be figured out and can never be fixed because of the wide variety of electronic parts for computers and all the different companies that make them. Like some things are just not properly compatible. So you really, whenever you're going to assemble a new PC, you have to always look at what you're going to put together based specifically on that point. Like, how well will this work together? Because as soon as you say like, I can't get this part, well, I'll try that other one, you immediately fuck it up permanently.
Don't swear. We're live. Yes.
Sorry.
That's all right. You're absolutely correct. The person who built the PC for the person who paid a huge amount of money for me to have it didn't do a good job of specifying which components would work well with which other components. And frankly, what they put together should never have been put together. And it wasn't what was paid for. It was a higher spec. So on the one hand, you go, oh, it's higher spec. No, that meant that because of a graphics card shortage, it ended with a card that was about 100 watts too powerful, which just meant it dumped 100 watts of excess heat into a system and caused thermal runaway immediately. That was solved with a lower powered graphics card. This lower powered graphics card that I'm using now, like it's working. So it's so irritating that you can get a system to the point where it does actually work, but then intermittently will black screen. Like I say, with Craig sat in front of it, with him physically seeing it happen 2 or 3 times, and then removing everything, and then the last hour he was here, it didn't do it, but then did again today. You're like, no, something's got to be done. And all the workarounds in the world that cost 0 won't end up with me with a working computer that I can just stick on each day and do a live stream with. However, replacing it and potentially giving the guy his card back that he kindly gave me and saying, unfortunately, this is faulty, you might want to RMA it or repair it or do whatever. But, you know, I want to give it back and put one in that does work so that I could just get on with it and just continually do my show. Now, the best thing about this particular moment to do this is Friday's show was epic. If you haven't already, check out Friday's show. I've already trimmed out the double feature, which is what we ended up with in the last half an hour of the live show, which ended up being the last half an hour of the show because the computer black screened and I had no control of the show. So while I was still telling John and Arwin, whoever, oh, my computer is black screened. In other words, I've no longer got a picture, but everything else is working. I can mute the lines and I run the intro and I do everything from muscle memory on my little stream deck. And I could see it, you know, functioning and all the lights are still working and people are still talking to me. And when I press a mute button, the line closes. So I'm like, oh, this is absolutely without question just a graphics card issue. But that'll happen eventually on this show. I mean, no doubt, you know, before I hopefully get my way to $500, the computer will crash or the graphics card will. Anyway, let's do a few shout outs. Shout out to Daniel Sam. I can never say his name. Arwin, thank God you're here. Samaniego.
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 Yeah,
That's the bit, isn't it?
it's probably
Samaniego.
Mexican.
Let's both butcher it together.
Daniel Samaniego.
It's a Daniela Samaniego. Thank you very much. He says, you are amazing. Oh, I really appreciate all the support, more than anything. As much as I am here e-begging for 500 quid. The words that I got from that Discord server after, I'm like, people will stop caring. They're not going to care. 14 months of me e-begging for computer parts. People will just stop caring. It's boring. And then out of nowhere, several people are like, no, they won't. We support you. It's an ongoing thing. We just want you to keep making the show. That's why we support you. If you need support for this, we will support you. It's just touching.
But we are like the splinter, or especially you are like the splinter in the paw of the great beast lion. You got to make effort to keep it in there. And that's what they're basically saying.
Right. Band-Aid on a computer in this instance. Shout out to Adam Price. Just hit me up. Thank you very much for the support via PayPal. Really appreciate it. Should really check my gift send go. I'm not going to be able to present it on screen, which is irritating. I have already tried to do that, and it didn't. I'm unsuccessful in that for whatever reason. That's why you haven't got an image on screen. Something flashing its way by. Arwin could see it in the Hangout, but the audience couldn't. But I'm not going to try and foul in that. As long as we're live streaming, I've got a limited amount of time before I know the computer will break, so I might as well just get on with it.
I can't see it anymore, by the way.
I turned it off. Well, what I did was just before I went live, I put the camera on to see if that worked. Now, that's a relatively video-intensive process. And as soon as I turned it on, it started juddering. I'm like, oh, crap, let's not use that. So I turned it off, went live, and then out of muscle memory, I pressed the button for the camera. I'm so used to doing it. And it came on. I'm like, oh, great, my camera's working. So I started doing the intro, and then I glanced across at OBS, and it's juddering. And I'm like, I don't want my vanity wanting to be on camera be the thing that stops me earning 500 quid to buy a graphics card on Monday. So let's just give up on the camera. So I turned it off. And then I thought, well, let's turn off everything. So I just turned off VLC, which is what I used to share the screenshots that go by. So it's a throwback to not being porn bombed, you know. I don't need to show all of those images. I don't need to spend sometimes a week, maybe once a year, editing together all the different thumbnails, but without all the words on them. That's all they are, those backdrops. Well, the reason I do it is because back in the day when I used to give out the G Plus link, you could join the G Plus and you could present porn. And it would be, obviously, if it's already popping up on my screen that I'm presenting in OBS, it does immediately go out to the audience. Well, with a limited amount of control, I like to have that up on screen so I can press one button on my Stream Deck and move all of you lot down 3 inches so that you're not showing what you're presenting, and I can lock my presentation. So that's the only reason I have that. But besides the point, it doesn't work at the moment. But there we go. That's another issue. I'm not going to faff with that when I've got e-begging to do. Anyway.
Ain't too proud to beg. Sweet darling, please don't leave me, girl. Don't you go. How you like that?
You can stop that singing just by contributing to my Give, Send, Go campaign. Kiwi won't do it again. That is one of the bonuses of supporting
Nathan,
me.
So to make John stop singing, donate to Nathan right now.
That's very, very mean of us, Arwin.
It's not. You guys are right, but I don't mind.
I have had a contribution on Give, Send, Go. Shout out to I Will Not Get the Jab, aka Network Dude. He says, flatten out the issue, Nathan. Oh, everybody likes donating with a good pun. I will try and flatten out the issue. I really appreciate it. Anyway, I was plugging my own show. So check out, I'm going to release it as a separate double feature, as I called it. Anyway, so I've already done that today on my iPad with the limited battery life. And that will get released whenever. Presumably, if I don't get to do a show on Monday, I'll just release it on the Monday. And then you'll get to see the full show on the Monday evening on the second channel. But check it out. It is still out, essentially in its entirety already, as Friday's live show. You'll need a flat Earth for that orbit, or something like that is the FED 1989 title. But I'll release it as Orbits Require a Flat Earth is the title I've given it as an edited video. But John and Arwin and myself, we were falling over each other to let these two dudes know how they needed a flat plane. One of them, called Bacon, had already been, and when it got to the point last time that John pointed out, that's refracted curvature, that he needed a flat plane for his axis and for his equatorial plane to infer orbital motion, to then start arguing about the problem 2 and 3 body in nature for orbital mechanics. At the first point he ran away when he got to the flat plane that he needed to make that assertion. And he did it this time as well. The guy was called Bacon. So he got 10 minutes with John discussing how he needs a flat plane to describe orbits, to then ask and ponder how the orbital mechanics will have a problem with the 2 or 3 body problem. And he disappeared, ran away, and then somebody else took up the helm, hence it being called a double feature in the edited version. And did the same thing. Got to the point where we're telling him he needs a flat plane, he's admitting he needs a flat plane, describing the XYZ coordinate system with respect to a flat plane, and then saying, oh, well, that's not in respect to reality, though. As soon as it proves a flat plane, and then we're not talking about in respect to the Earth or reality or anything. It doesn't prove anything. There's no reference to anything. As soon as it proves a flat Earth.
Yeah, of course. If it's a flat plane, well, then it's only math, of course. Right? But if it's a sphere, that's the real thing.
Then it's physics.
Exactly. There's no flat planes in physics, only spheres.
But you'll need a flat Earth for that / Route 90 argument. It's so powerful that it even, and you put your fingers in your ears, Kiwi, it even overwhelmed my desire to educate the guy in the difference between maths and physics. And indeed with the second guy when he claimed phenomena. I didn't even feel the need to go into his use of the claim that physicists were studying the phenomena of the rings around Saturn so that he could segue into his orbital motion after using a flat plane, but just, as Arwin put it, ignoring the strings and lights and dollies and grips and everything else behind the stage that's cut out when you see the final frame. All of that's been edited out. In this case, that's metaphorically equivalent to the flat Earth that's required. Oh, by the way, this is an e-begging campaign. We're only live so I can raise money to replace a graphics card that's dud. So please smash the PayPal link and GoFundMe. But yeah, that prerequisite requirement for a flat plane gets either utilised first and then all the questions and arguments come after the utilisation of a flat plane, or, in this instance, denied as being anything to do with reality when orbital mechanics are used with respect to a described flat plane to give them angles and measurements with respect to the celestial sphere on the equatorial plane, which is where their globe is based, in the centre of hell. Well, then they'll deny the plane existence or deny its association with reality. Like I say, because it's proving a flat plane. Amazing. Good show Friday. Shame that it was, if it hadn't have crashed, that would have gone on for another 2 hours.
Yeah, it did seem like that. I was just getting my lunch and then I come back and it's like, what? What happened? It's all gone. I didn't even notice you rounding out the show.
That's because I didn't.
Right. Makes sense then.
Well, I say I didn't. I realised everything had gone crappy when obviously my screen stopped responding or giving me an image. I muted all the lines and ran the outro and then ended the recording. And then because I don't know how to go to the start button without a screen, and I just force crashed the computer once I'd timed about 60 seconds and pressed stop recording, stop live streaming. Now, when I got back into the computer, it had indeed stopped the recording, but it had stopped it at the point that the crash had occurred. So that had obviously stopped the encoder. So I do use the GPU to encode the stream. So it didn't actually record my outro, although it did function. Anyway. You can check that out if you're watching this and you're just like, I want to hear about Flat Earth, you bloody beggar. Well, you can, and you just did, and it's in reference to a show as opposed to us just discussing it. And you can check that show out right now, and that's a live show where there was no e-begging, literally none. I thought the computer was working beautifully. I didn't. I absolutely no confidence with it then, now, or probably won't after there's a new graphics card. But that's besides the point. So check it out. Flat Earth Debate 1989. What time's your show start, QE?
Sorry, I'm eating.
Are you eating now? Fine. It's typically 7 o'clock UK time. Ballbusters on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel.
Give me a second. I'm almost there.
I'm good. There's no rush for me. I can keep waffling on about how I need to e-beg my way to a new graphics card. A new graphics card to replace the one that's in there that will be identical. Heartbreaking as it is when the thing functions for about 70% of the time, 100% of the time.
All right, the time is 2 p.m. U.S. Central. That's 8 p.m. UK. So 2 p.m. U.S. Central, 8 p.m. UK on the Quantum Eraser channel. Be here or be square. I'm sorry, be there.
Be here or be sphere.
Yeah, that. And we're going to talk about logical fallacies today. And a couple other things that have popped up that you ain't going to believe. But we'll get there.
One of my Patreons got in touch with me because he was debating with a pilot. And he was like, can you give me something I can give back? I'm not going to name this guy. Something I can give back to this pilot that concisely demolishes his assertion that a bubble sextant requires a sphere. And my response to him was like, the bubble sextant establishes horizontal. And I put a question mark either side of my response. And he got back in touch with a voice message saying, oh, thank you, of course. Why did I bloody think of that in the first place? I was like, I actually put it back to him as a question, as in, why are you asking me this? The bubble's establishing horizontal. But once I'd said that to him or responded with that, it's like confessional debating, as Alwyn puts it. You can imagine, like Rumpus, well, the dip proofs were on a sphere. No, Brian would have something to say in 2022 about that. Now we're in 2023, we all understand that the dip is absolutely a flat Earth prerequisite. But back then, they were claiming that proved that we got a spherical Earth. Like confessional debating. They, same or more simplistically, would say sextant only works on a globe. You ever hear that?
I heard Jaren say that.
What? You heard Jaren say a sextant only works on a globe? I don't think so,
No, not like that. But he did say that, well, remember that time he got on Mactoon, right? That we reviewed that video, he did kind of say he gave Mactoon that it could work on a globe. Remember that?
Well, no. I mean, I remember Toon trying to convince Jaren that it worked on a globe and Jaren being duped by it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I see. No,
He didn't
tangents out in
try it at all.
space.
He just say, yeah, sure, it works on a globe. Like, Jaren.
Tangents out in space won't give you a GP. Anyway, I covered that with Jaren personally. I went through it with him.
Speaking of Jaren, him and frickin' Frack, I'm going to call him now, Frick being Jaren, Frack being shits at 40. Jaren, last night, somebody sent me a link to Jarenism saying, hey, he's out there slamming Nathan again. So I turned it on. I'll tell you what, dude, this, number one, it took him like when did you debate him? How long ago was that?
I don't know. A while, a month or two.
A couple months, right? So I guess this is the rebuttal. It was just off the cuff. It was so strange and so cringe, but he is going off on you and you being a scammer again. Just bringing up the same old repeated respawn nonsensical horseshit. I mean, really going at it, right? And I couldn't believe it. I was in there almost pissing myself. It was so stupid because all it was a convoluted gaggle of sentence fragments. I couldn't believe it, right? And so I hurry up and sent it out to you guys. And did you get to watch it before he deleted it?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
What was the video about though?
Yeah, I mean, going to watch it and then it was gone. Yeah.
You don't want to assume that that's because of me. It might be that there's other stuff in the video that was contextually incorrect or subject to update, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that his removal is anything connected to me, does it? Unless it was Nathan is a scammer video, then maybe so.
That's what it was. He was playing that dun, 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 the rap song, everything. He played it a number of times and then was reviewing it, the rap video, trying to connect it to the things you've said and done. It was unbelievably stupid and hilarious at the same time. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to see it. You know what? I see. I think these people, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not going to delete their videos. I should have downloaded it, but I didn't do it. Sorry about that, man.
I'm not too keen to hear Jaren ranting on about me being a scammer. I mean, if he wants stuff to get his teeth into, this would be it, right? Because in the last 2 years, I've had 4 graphics cards sit next to me. So in the original system, the one that lasted 5, 6 years, maybe even 7, it had a 980. Then that failed, so I replaced it with a 2060. Then that system failed and got replaced with this system. Now, that was a different failure. I think one of my kids might have poured something onto the motherboard because there was all watermarks on it. In any event, that got replaced with this system with a 3070. That cooked itself within 12 months and got replaced with a 4070. So that is within 2 years, 4 GPUs that have sat next to me. Now I'm here doing, right now, an e-begging campaign for a 5th GPU in 2 years. Now, that reeks of scammer, doesn't it? If you're going to get your teeth into something, come on, 4 GPUs in 2 years? Well, actually, yes. Actually, yes. But that's something you could say, nah, that seems very suspect. Yeah, it does. But it is actually the case, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, at least that one's coherent.
He's not calling me a scammer for needing a new GPU or for needing a new set of RAM or for needing a new hard drive. He's calling me a scammer for presumably saying science proves again, if you said it's the same old stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Same old stuff. And another thing that's popped up is shit's it. And you said I shouldn't have a problem with it because imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But there's something really cringe about this dude. First of all, he did a debate on creation versus atheism. And it was, I'm not even going to put this lightly. It's not strangely familiar. He took everything off my website. For the creator, scientific proofs and creator, right? Now, he didn't take all of it, but everything he used was off my website. So yesterday or this morning, I'm sitting here and I don't know what it is, but anything atheism or creation always populates my recommended. Right? So I'm looking over there, and there's a atheism. What did he call it? Hold on. He calls it Atheism Debunked by Shits at 40. Guess what he's doing? He's presenting. Now, he's not in a debate, but he's making a presentation to his subscribers, to all those knuckle draggers. Guess what he's doing?
A QE
I'll
live
give you one,
presentation, regurgitated in his own tongue.
Yep.
See, that kind
there's no shame here. He's using my citations, George Wald, all the ones. He's almost going in order. Hey, and putting the citations up on screen, it's unbelievable. I'm sitting here, and you're saying, well, I shouldn't. Imitation is, the greatest form of flattery. And
well, there's a fine line between imitation or what I'm encouraging. So there's a fine line between these two things, right? I'm encouraging Dave Weiss and Jaron to take ownership of arguments such as science proves things, it's been hijacked to claim proof where they don't have any. That's why everything's called science, and you've detected lies when everyone's claiming science, because they haven't got any proof. They didn't have any science. That's the essence of what I desire Jaron and Dave Weiss to take away so that they can better their argumentation. Now, were they to do that, let's say 12 months from now, Jaron sat in front of somebody debating and they say, well, the scientists said that NASA have got this rocket in space. And Jaron says, if it's science, it's adhered to the scientific method. What was the phenomena? This isn't natural science. Or he said various different statements that you could tell came directly from the work that we did. I would cheer. I would jump for joy. That would be the best possible outcome I could desire. But there is a very big distinction between taking ownership of an argument and plagiarism. And it sounds to me like if he's reading out word by word, not word for word, but play by play what you have got laid out for this debate on your website with the citations you use on your website for the points you make point by point that he used, that's tantamount to plagiarism as opposed to just taking ownership of an argument.
Especially if it's like ordered in the same chronology, whether there's something taken out, but that's highly suspicious. Like, why is it in the exact same order?
Yeah, damn near really close.
Yeah, I want people to understand the arguments as opposed to if there's a few catchphrases that we use, like you're going to need a flat earth for that. Now, when Jaron said that in context at the right moment to Ruhif, I was like, but he told him he'd need a flat earth for that. In other words, I'm like, yeah, that's right. As opposed to, that's my catchphrase. Now, in essence, I could have been critical of Jaron when he said that because he's saying it and then going, oh, it don't matter, or whatever he did. Because he's trying to undermine me. Okay, fine. But the reality is he did state at the right moment, you're going to need a flat earth for that, and it was correct. So in that respect, I applaud him, even though he's doing it to undermine me when he decries it and goes, doesn't matter, nothing, to his opponent who went, what was that? Okay, I could, but I'm not going to. I want him to take these arguments on. But if he just took the catchphrase and didn't understand the argument, and was just literally parroting verbatim the catchphrases, right, like he did in that example, then that's not what you hope for. You want the person to understand and take ownership of the argument. That's different to plagiarism. That's different to just parroting off the words from QE's website almost verbatim and using his citation. I don't like using citations because of exactly this sort of circumstance. If I use someone else's argument in the phraseology they used with their citation, that is just then their argument, really. Now, it's still unfair for someone to turn around and go, well, that's QE's argument. Yeah? No, they do still own that argument when they put it to you, but it is still kind of like QE's argument at that point. They've almost got justification in saying it if you're paraphrasing so close to the original with the citations that are identical. We're still on air.
At some points, he's not paraphrasing. It's the exact same thing.
Right, and also just because Jaron says, oh, you're going to need a flat earth for that, that doesn't actually mean, even though he got the timing right, that he even, despite that, understands the implications of the entire argument. He might have just said that ironically, like as a reflex understanding it subconsciously, but consciously not understanding it. And that's why he didn't hold strong with it after he had done it. He just did it at the right time because he intuitively got it, but he cognitively didn't get it. That's what I think.
Wow.
Maybe. Either way, this is actually an e-begging show. So please hit me up on PayPal, hit me up on Give, Send, Go. There's an ongoing campaign to get this computer finally to the point where it doesn't give me non-stop, and I do mean daily, grief. So yeah, there's a PayPal link going by. I think I put the Give, Send, Go in the actual information box below the video if you did want to help me out. And yeah, we'll keep streaming until either I hit 500 bucks and can walk into my computer shop guy Monday, and say, yes, order a direct replacement, like for like, swap it, because it'll have exactly the same hardware to do so. And then I can go back to live streaming without giving it any more thought. Anyway, for as long as this goes on, I say, because there's another show that's going to go on later on, which is Ballbusters on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. So be here or be sphere at 8 PM UK time, which is in a couple of hours' time from now, maybe 2.5 hours from now.
Be square.
That doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Were you around while that Bacon and the other guy were around, QE?
Are you talking on Friday?
Yes.
I think I was just, in fact, I was coming in and no one picked up. I hit the link to come in and it just spun for like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I knew something happened.
Yeah, it was broken by that point. By the sounds of things, you tried to get in, but didn't. Did you actually hear the show? You probably didn't get a chance to listen to Flat Earth Debate 1998. Is it no, 1989. That's right.
I think I woke up late again, and I'm behind you. Like you're already 40 minutes in, so I go back and get the context of the conversation. I was doing that routine. Right. And then I said, I'll come in after I get some breakfast. So I hit the come in link, and like I said, it just spun. So sometimes you're usually getting coffee. It'll spin for like 5 minutes. So I just let it go, and it was like 20 minutes. I said, something happened.
Right. Well, by that point on the Friday show, I was already in contact with my tech guy. And for that reason, he'd actually had that day on Friday, that show at that time when that discussion was happening, running on a customer's computer in the shop that he was working on. And he explained, at some point I had to go behind to the back of the shop where all his workshop is. And I just left it running. So as I'm glancing back into the showroom, I can see these customers listening to Arwin, me, and Refracted Curvature tell this guy how his orbits will need a flat plane.
Oh, nice.
That's what I said. I was like, oh, wow. I'm glad I kept it clean that day. There's no swearing on that day. Unlike this show, which will definitely not get monetized now, thanks to Arwin. But that aside, it's e-begging, more importantly.
Just for saying the F word one time? Really?
Yeah.
Well, my show today was monetized. People got ads all over the place, and I did a whole bunch of swearing.
Yeah,
Didn't
YouTube.
stop the ads, though.
Okay, well, it does for me. It does for YouTube generally. I mean, YouTube want to be clean. They want, they want to be like TV in that regard. That's how stringent their terms of service are currently. They don't want any swearing. They want abbreviated swearing. That is to say, if you swear in a pre-recorded video that you're uploading, they want you to beep it out, literally.
Wow.
Yep. That's what
Good
they
thing
want.
I don't do that then. I just do live streams and I say all the wrong words exactly when I want to.
Well, they might be getting in trouble. So YouTube currently have put their foot down and said no ad blockers. The only problem being, shout out to Lewis Rossman for this information, that in Europe, you have to disclaim all spyware, all cookie detection software, and give the person visiting the website the opportunity to opt out. Now, if your web browser has given you the opportunity, or given YouTube the opportunity to detect whether or not they've downloaded certain parts of their server's site, namely ads, and then say, YouTube doesn't allow that, it essentially means that they have scanned your computer with a cookie. Now, if you're not logged in, that is to say that you are not at the point of use, subscriber, and have not agreed to the terms of service of YouTube, because YouTube have designed their site that way, that you can just visit YouTube and load up a video. And if YouTube says, no ad blockers here, that means they've gone into your computer without consent and scanned it to see if you're using an ad blocker. Definitely not allowed in the EU. So
Okay.
that might cause some problems.
That's weird. I didn't know that.
Have you not noticed that every time you load a website, it says, "You're all right with cookies, right? You like cookies? You like us looking at the stuff?"
Drives me nuts, and I always say no, no, no. And sometimes I don't want to do it. I just click like, okay, then I don't watch your site then.
Right, because it's the law here now, right? So therefore, if suddenly you go to YouTube and it says, you're using an ad blocker, what? How do you know I'm using an ad blocker? Not that I use ad blocker.
Whatever that is, that's funny, by the way, the legal issues around that. I hadn't realized that, but I'm like, no, I'm actually against ad blocking. I hate ads, but I mean, this is a huge video platform that really shouldn't even be possible. The way it works, how big it is, how many videos it actually can contain at a really good quality. And so I want YouTube just to stay alive. I don't want it to be at the mercy of some big bankers. They'll invest in it so that the audience can be manipulated in their favor. And that's the way they get around. I'd rather have a bunch of stupid ads get in your face, right? So I'm all for like the self-sufficiency of YouTube. And if that means ads, then I'm all for it. I don't like them, but I don't want YouTube to become even more corrupted.
Fair enough. I mean, I feel no sympathy to ad blockers because I obviously earn a living from ads. It's not my main source of income. That's mainly super chats and people giving me Patreon and stuff. But I do earn money from ads. So when someone's like, well, do you support ad blockers? I'm like, well, it directly affects my income. So what do you think? Obviously, I'm going to be in support of people watching my ads. Please watch my ads. It gives me revenue. And when people turn around like Lewis Rossman and say, well, it's 0.11 cents. It's like, yeah, that might be the case. But when you're scraping by, that does make a difference. You know what I mean? It might not make a difference to him with his 2 million subscribers and very successful computer repair business. Fair enough. But to me, this is my living. So yeah, I'm gonna be directly affected if people use ad blockers. I've said it for years. I looked into how the ads earn you money. What is it? What percentage of the ad? How long? What percentage before you skip will actually register as an ad for you? Things like that. And I would be telling my audience, yeah, watch 50% or 30 seconds, whichever's less or more, whatever it was at the time. When literally it did make a difference to whether or not I could scrape by and pay the mortgage that month. Still the case today. So yeah, I've got something to say on it. On the other hand, would I be in any way detrimental to somebody who had ad blocker and were like, yeah, I use ad blocker? I'd be like, oh, fair enough. Oh well, your bag. If you want to use it with ad blocker, that's up to you. Obviously, YouTube.
I'm the same. But when people then start complaining, oh, why is it getting so weird with the ad blocker? I'm like, yeah. Well, I don't have that problem because I never used it.
No, me neither.
And
I've never used
they're not that bad anyway. Like I have my ads set in a very specific way where I refuse to. All ads have to be skippable on my channel. Like they don't last longer than 5 seconds because that really annoys me. And the long ads are usually like alcohol and all that, so it's really bad influence anyway.
I don't think they do influence. I mean, I do watch ads, and I don't think they influence me. It's true. There is nothing quite like a McDonald's, and I do enjoy Coke.
Ew. That's very funny. But I mean, I don't like the long ads because they drive me insane. So I'm like, I want the ads for everybody to be the way that I find it acceptable. And that's an ad that you can skip after 5 seconds every time. And there's plenty of them, right? But that way you don't get really taken out of whatever's happening live.
I don't mind skippable ads every so often if they're about 15 seconds or less. When you get into a minute-long non-skippable ad, there is a very good chance I will put a different video on, because at that point, you're watching a video. The ad is the video that you've then chosen to watch, and I'm like, I haven't chosen to watch this video that's an ad, so I'm going to put something else on. And then there's a good chance the next video you put will have a 5-second skippable ad.
And for my live show, it's even a worse situation, because I could literally be having a conversation with somebody in my chat. And if then in the middle of that conversation, I'm telling them something personally and an ad pops up, yeah, that makes a giant mess out of everything.
Oh, that guy that came on that did a presentation, Tinfoil Hat Man, sent me $50 and said, just offered kind words of support, but said it was from him and his wife, who he had climbing over barbed wire. Do you remember?
Yeah.
My wife had something to say about that.
Yeah, that's nice. So you mean you just got that in your GoFundMe?
Yeah, the guy who came on to do the presentation sent me $50. Thank you very much, Tinfoil Hat Man. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Where are you at, by the way?
I don't know. People have sent me. I'm up to about $150 via PayPal. $50 I'd already been given. So when I was moaning, thank God that wasn't recorded. On Friday, someone heard my pain, and we were talking about Tinfoil Hat Man and his wife and going over barbed wire and stuff like that. And I was saying, and they were like, no, if his wife's fun and enjoys doing that sort of thing, it's not like he's putting her through torture or something along that lines. And somebody said, well, how's your wife? I'm like, well, she's miserable. Well, why is she miserable? Well, because I'm miserable. Because this computer hasn't worked a single day in its 14 months of existence. So I'm miserable. And therefore, the people around me, my kids, my wife, that's going to affect them if you're miserable. And someone heard that and sent me $50. And their words were, get something nice for your wife. Well, she happens to like working graphics cards as it goes. That's what I heard. But you know what I'm getting at.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, Tinfoil Hat Man, he was like, he's going out to get these long distance images in the case of the lighthouse, and describing how he was carrying this Meade telescope, presumably in a similar fashion to what he showed us on his stills, but a lot less convenient because it was bigger. And he's climbing over barbed wire along with his wife to get into the positions that he wants to get these shots from, because he's new to flat Earth. More power to him. Now, I felt really bad actually after I can't believe he's giving me money, because we were really critical. We're like, your observations are great and all, but we're at that stage in the discussion where the horizon's no longer Earth curve, and it's their positive claim that it is for them to use. Therefore, this will only work to your disadvantage when they start trying to tell you whether physical geometric horizon should be or is refracted to, for their positive claim, as opposed to your positive flat Earth claim, which it isn't. So in many ways, it's like we were quite detrimental to his presentation. Would you not agree?
I didn't actually really see most of it because I was out at the time. But it was, you mentioned about it afterward, there was a lot about the horizon basically not being comported with geometrics, right? So it was a bit behind the times.
Yeah, it was a la Sleeping Warrior with Isle of Man, or Blackpool Tower, or a whole bunch of other ones that you could name. But that was that was what it was like. Now, I say it was like that. He could easily come along, hold up Anthony or Ranty's pictures side by side, and go, no, my standard is infinitely better than theirs. And I'd probably agree with him. What he showed was exceptional. You know, the quality, the resolution, the distance. At 17 miles, that the quality was there. Which, when you've got Anthony with his P900, albeit on a tripod, it wasn't as good. Sorry, Anthony, if you're listening. You know, and had he been the guy that was putting the images up on Flat Earth Debate in 2016, it would have still resulted in the exact same outcome, wouldn't it? Wouldn't have made any difference how much better or further, higher, lower, less refracted, more refracted. The moment you're into the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth curve calculations, you've lost.
As soon as you get into that geometric consideration, you've lost.
Exactly. So it's a lose-lose from a presentation standpoint. Now, if you're that type of person that wants to get out there, like Ranty, like Anthony, like Tinfoil Hatman, and someone like me comes along and says, this doesn't actually help us as flat earthers for a positive assertion to be made about the nature of our existence on a flat plane, beyond your unrequired explanation for angular resolution change at distance, which you don't have a positive claim for as a flat earther. It only serves to respond to their positive claim about the horizon being Earth curve. You know, I would hear that if it was me climbing over the barbed wire and go, what? You don't know what you're talking about. I would be in cognitive dissonance at that point. Because of the work being put in.
If he hasn't stayed up to date with the flat Earth debates, yeah, you would get cognitive dissonance. If it's like, hey, what's been happening in the last 7 years, guys? Yeah, it would be like, what? So it's all dependent on that, isn't it?
That was the last time I did something like this, actually. It's about, albeit I have done GoFundMes and subsequently Give Send Go campaigns, right? They've all been fairly subtle. Like, I'll run the campaign, tweet it out, I'll make a video on my iPhone or iPad about whatever it is I'm e-begging for, and that's it. Whereas when it was someone else, like you, like Ranty, like whoever was doing a campaign, I'd do a big song and dance about it. I'd run a show like this to try and raise the funds, because that's the most effective way of doing it. Now, while I'm sitting on my ass thinking, well, should I now transition to the iGPU? It's like, well, it ran a full show on Friday. As much as I do need to get the problem fixed, I do have the ability, till the computer crashes, to run the show right now. I haven't turned anything off yet. So why not? Why not run the campaign? I can actually function for a bit. And it's a proper campaign. Not just a little video with me going, oh, my hardware's failed again, and there's a link below, and it's like, no, I'm full on, I'm out here live, telling you how much I'm begging. In spite of people.
Proper e-begging takes hours.
Yeah, this is a proper e-begging. It's just so much easier when you're doing it on someone else's behalf. Yeah, give generously to Ranty's drone campaign.
Yeah, goody.
Well, yeah, but that's what it was all about, right? You know, Ranty wanted to get getting out there, like Tinfoil Hatman, getting those observations, and therefore, people who are watching the show saw it as a worthy endeavour to get Ranty that drone. Therefore, they raised the money, and that's how it was achieved. And you're like, yeah, that's how it should be. So you think, when it's your own plight, first world problem, graphics card failure, you don't feel the same enthusiasm for it, and you can't spark up the same motivation. Until 14 months elapses, and then when you get a problem like this, you do go, no, I will just fire up the computer, working or not, and I will e-beg my way to a solution so I can get on with life and stop this 14-month cycle of endless woes. Thank you to Daniel Samanigo. One more time. Samanigo. No,
Samaniego.
Samaniego.
Yeah.
Samaniego. Thank you very much for the super chat and for gifting memberships. Really appreciate it. He's got a computer with the word work written on it. This is work. I mean, I just want to enjoy the work and raise the standard of the show. So Friday, because I was in the midst of thinking I was solving problems, which I wasn't, you know, I kind of think each time a live show like now starts, forget about the computer, you're doing the show now. And that's the attitude I take until it breaks. Obviously, then you can't not pay attention to it. But that was the attitude I had on Friday. I mean, it's so ironic that that was a show that it actually crashed on. Like, the previous 7 days, previous 5 days, it didn't do that. It worked for the entirety of the show, even while stress testing it in the after show. Like, I was running Fortnite to stress it, to test it, all week since having the hard drives changed, since installing all the software. So that's all I've been doing, stress testing. And it would function for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then after the show, for instance, I'd stick it on, my kid would come and everything would be closed, it had all been uploaded, I'd done all the members-only videos, flagged them for the swearing that I'd got in there, so that I get an appeal, which will inevitably fail. And then my kid's like, can I play Fortnite? Which is very low graphics demand. She sticks it on, I go into the kitchen, start making a coffee. Oh, Daddy, the screen's gone up! I'm like, what? Come in, obviously she's experienced the problem I've been experiencing. I'm like, oh crap. You know, at that point you could cry because you've spent so many hours the night before till 1 a.m. testing, trying to induce the fault that you're experiencing so that you can figure out what's causing it so you can rectify it in software, you'd hope, as opposed to in hardware. But like I say, for literally 14 months, it may not be every night, it would be an exaggeration to say it was, but there's been, I'm going to say, a solid 50% of the nights, every other night, up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, stress testing this computer, figuring out what's wrong with it that day, waking up the following day, going, oh, finally, this is the first day of the rest of my life with this computer. And then it will immediately fail. But anyway, smash that PayPal link. I know where we are in terms of total. I've been struggling to keep up with it, to be honest. I'm sure a couple of other people have hit the super chat, hit the GoFundMe, hit the what is it, Give Send Go link, ongoing from 2 weeks ago when it was last used to get hard drives into this computer. They're all working fine, by the way. I don't think I did an update on that. I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the first show after they were fitted, but that was about it. But they all seem to be working perfectly. What I intended to do, and Craig has sent me his own personal video that he made showing me how to do it, create a ghost image, because this is what he's done in the past. So on the old system, the hard drive failed after a few years. So I took it down to him, and he said, I'll ghost the drive onto the new drive, which still exists. That Corsair drive still in this system, just as a separate spare drive. Anyway, he took whatever it was at the time, a Microsoft or something like that, blue WD drive that was a terabyte, and ghosted it onto the new one, so that when I turned it on, it had everything exactly the same as it was. Well, he's shown me how to do that. Now I've got a spare drive in a stick in a caddy that I can put in the USB-C. I can make a ghost of whatever it is that's done. But every time I said to my wife 3 times this week, tomorrow I want you to sit with that tutorial and talk me through doing it, so that there's both of us paying close attention to what's being done, so no mistakes are made, so that I can ghost this new, now after 2 weeks setup, established. It's not now. Craig last night took a load of software off and I can't screen share anymore, so I'm not going to be making this as a ghost of my drive. But that has been the case every day. So since he put the new hard drives, I'm like, once I've got it all working and set up, I never want to have to go through this 2-week process again of putting all the software back on and making it all function like it did originally. I want to ghost the drive, so if the more likely to drive than any fails, the C drive, I can just use that, and it will leave me with no downtime. But every time I come to do it, something fails. So you're like, well, I'm not going to make a ghost of the drive now. I'll eradicate that problem, then I'll make a ghost of the drive. The following day you wake up, today will be the day that I'll be sitting down with my wife making that backup. I still haven't made it. It's been 2 weeks since I've had the new hard drives in. I am now set up. The show has run, but each day there's been an issue that has prevented me from just making that ghost backup of the new Windows install with all the software now functioning. So there we go. That's life. It's been that way for 14 months. So I want the show to be of a high standard. I want this to stop. I want the end to be in sight, and with a plan, which is to say, replace the graphics card. If I have anything, and I do mean anything, go wrong with the computer from that point forward, I'm going to take every single electronic component out of it and put it in a new case with new cooling. That's what the plan is. Because I've got to have some long-term plan. Because I can't continue doing this for 4 years with this computer. It will give me a heart attack. It will give me a nervous breakdown eventually. I'm on the verge of it now.
Yes, I get that. But I mean, it's all about stability. Like, if possible, just try to, instead of just desperately trying to find a patchwork for your thing that's falling apart, instead, like, try to focus on how can you get components together that really are meant to be together, and like have research about that. Like, what is this component of this specific card. What is like the best component that this specific card would take? Let me find that, right? I
do that. I do that a lot.
that.
I spend a lot of time watching videos about computer components. When you're in the midst of doing your own computer, you tend to be watching that sort of video on YouTube. Now, I did it 5 years ago when I first set up the old computer. When I was buying the parts, in the process of building it, after I'd built it, while I was setting it up, and then while you're regretting that you didn't wait another month to get the newer component that had been replaced, but tuning the one that you had bought. That's what I did initially. A couple of months after I'd got the computer stable, got all the fans silent, got it to be overclocked, checked it with games, stress tested it whilst live. There reaches a point where you go, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to play Battlefield 2 anymore, or Grand Theft Auto 5, which were the 2 games I bought 5 or 6 or 7, however many years ago I got this computer, and started testing it with live streaming. Those were the games that I live streamed then. Did you ever see me play them after that? No. Nobody ever saw me play Grand Theft Auto. Once, when I changed the graphics card from a 980 to a 2060. So again, I overclocked that graphics card, reduced the voltage so it didn't produce too much heat, turned the fans right down so it didn't produce any noise, stress tested it with the couple of games I happen to still have on the system, Grand Theft Auto and Battlefield 2, ancient games, make sure it was stable, and then you never saw those games again. Now, on stream, for the last year, people have seen me develop as a Fortnite player. No, have I got any interest in this? No. Craig said to me today, he's like, you know, you can play Fortnite on the iGPU, we'll run it. I was like, I don't give a crap. I says, I'm only playing the game because I want the computer to be tested and stable. I'm not interested in being a good Fortnite player. I'm only playing it to make sure it's stable. But I haven't stopped playing it for 14 months. What does that tell you? Not that I'm really interested in Fortnite. What I do most of the time, this is what my kids watch. I can't do it anymore. The game won't allow it, but it used to. You land in the game, jump off the highest building possible to commit suicide, click the spectate button, and then just let it run. So it is effectively running as a game, rendering live to put that strain on the graphics card, but without you putting a single input into the game. So I just used to commit suicide, and I still do. So Craig got here, and all he was watching was a game that had me commit suicide in it immediately, running in the background with OBS recording. At the time, my timing yesterday was so epic. He walked through the door. I'm like, do you want pizza? Oh, yeah. Do you want a coffee? Yeah. All the instructions, got his coat off him. He sat down. Within 2 minutes, it displayed the fault. Literally within 2 minutes of him sitting down in front of it. You know, you got a tech guy and you're like, oh, it won't. You go in with your car and it's making a knocking sound, right? You book it into the garage. You tell him the fault. You drop it off. You get a phone call now, guy. I can't hear no knocking. So you go back to the garage. You sit in the car with the mechanic, and he goes, what knocking? You go, it's not doing it. And he goes, I can't work on a fault, I can't hear. So you take the car out, having booked it in and waited 2 weeks to get it in. And the second you drive off the forecourt of the garage, and you go, oh, God damn, I'm going to kill somebody. That's how I feel. Normally, right. Because you can't make it do the fault you want it to show. The tech guy, in this instance, not a bit of it. 2 minutes after he came in, music's playing, Fortnite's running, OBS is recording, both projector and monitor are on. He sits down, I glance at the temperatures, and I'm like, look at the temperatures, it can't be heat. The RAM's at 45C. Like, that's less than most people have in a normal computer. The graphics card's at 60C. It can't be that. Boom. Everything goes black. I'm like, couldn't have been better timing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. At least it got his attention then.
Well, it got a video of it. So I took a video with, because obviously you're unaware. So when I pick up the iPad, I'm like, oh crap, it's done it. Because it's happened several times, I immediately grabbed the iPad, went into recording, press record, and took a 10-second video. So, and in that video, you can hear John in the background talking and you talking to him with no pictures on the screen. So the reason that's important is it shows the processor's functioning, the RAM's functioning. If it wasn't, it would have blue screened. If the CPU had functioned, I wouldn't be hearing you anymore talking. My Stream Deck wouldn't work to mute the lines. Do you see what I
Yeah,
mean?
there
So,
would be no lines functioning at all.
exactly. So it tells me it's definitely not RAM, which has recently been replaced in the last 14 months in this new computer. It's not the CPU or the motherboard, because the things attached to it are still functioning. But I've lost picture. That can only mean one thing. It's only the graphics card. Now, I look back at a few videos, and in some of the games that I was testing, that's why I do it on live stream, you could see that textures weren't loading. Now, I looked that up because today, the computer works. So I've when my kid came in today and was like, can I play Minecraft? I was like, why not? Yes, you can. And she keeps going, oh, why has it gone black? But not in the way I think. So I'm like, well, has it gone black? I look up and it's all working. She's like, no, all of the screen in the game went black. I'm like, well, what do you mean? So she describes it to me. I'm like, oh, it's suddenly dropped a load of textures. So I looked that up online and start doing research for half an hour. And
graphics memory?
Exactly, graphics memory. There's probably, and again, I did, before looking it up, this actually happened after I got back from the shop today, but I did say to Craig, because I did remember, and I told him, there's been points where the textures haven't loaded. I just put it down to the PC being wonky. You don't think, oh, maybe my brand new graphics card's actually not working correctly when it doesn't load a load of textures, or it's all dark. I'm like, oh, that's weird. But then the game carries on, and then suddenly they all pop in. Well, I didn't know that's actually indicative of memory on the graphics card buggered. So there's a good chance I've just got a singular faulty chip. Now, I spent hours watching Northwest Repair, a guy who specifically takes in faulty graphics cards, diagnoses the memory chip problem, or in some cases, main chip problem. And if it's a memory chip and he's got an old card that he can get one off, he'll replace it for a few £100. Now, I asked Craig, I'm like, does someone do that in this country? He's like, no. I mean, there are a handful of specialists, but you're into throwing good money after bad. Plus, it's not going to be a short-term solution. You're not going to be streaming tomorrow. If you send something off to that guy in Europe, there's another guy, not Northwest Repair, a different guy in Europe that can do it. I'm like, yeah, but where's he going to get all the parts for this brand new card? It's not been out long enough for there to be a stack of donor cards that have failed. It's not even that old. So I'm thinking the only solution to this problem is to literally replace a card that's been replaced 3 months ago. That's absolutely heartbreaking, because it like right now, for the most part, if you didn't know and I sat you in front of this computer, if it didn't black screen, it would seem like a perfectly working computer. Anyway. So smash the PayPal link so I can stop worrying about it. Get this computer finally fixed. It's so close. It doesn't overheat anymore. It doesn't blue screen because of RAM issues anymore. The CPU isn't sat at 107C anymore. With the exception of the power button, which Monster Labo still haven't sent me, which doesn't have a working power button. But other than that, generally speaking, right this second, it's working really nicely. It should be a great PC. Anyway, enough of my moaning about it. Hopefully I'll get it resolved.
That's what you said most of the times, though, in the last few months.
I have said that more times than ever, because the components inside the passive computer are all just normal components. A 12900K is just an Intel chip, a good Intel chip. Well, that is when you're like, oh, make sure the components work together. There are millions of 12900Ks in the market. There's so many people who use that chip. It's very, very, very common, as are the motherboard, as are the power supply, as are the RAM, as are the graphics card that's currently the dud. Now, like I said,
reliable and replaceable. Very important.
Very what?
Reliable and replaceable is very important.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think the unreliability is coming from the fact that it's working in an unusual circumstance for its cooling. But that will be the next thing. As much as it's wonderful to enjoy the passive life of a passive computer, it isn't. It's got 6 fans in it. Now, by the time they're ramped up to about 600, 700 RPM, you're like, it could be a water-cooled system and not be limited to 140 watts when it wants 300, and not be undervolted and underclocked in the case of the graphics card, just so it doesn't hit more than 150 watts when it's a 250 watt card. I wouldn't have to do any of those things in a water-cooled PC. And instead of it being £1,000 worth of case that I'm obviously slightly sentimentally attached to because I've worked on it for 14 months to try and get it to work. So you do think, well, just one more thing might be the thing that actually got it to stay working forever. But there can only be so many one more things, right? There's got to be a line, and that line is after this.
Well, the problem with one more thing is that with every one more thing you add on, the chaos factor goes up and it never goes down. And thus it will all become more unpredictable whether it's going to work together.
Well,
with every one more thing. No, but that's just a rule of fist kind of thing. It's just how it works.
The more things that get changed, the greater the statistical likelihood of, like with this graphics card, just a component just being faulty. So today I said to Craig, well, is that normal? Do you just get graphics cards that are just faulty? He's like, yeah. I'm like, so the fact that I've bought it, or I haven't, someone's bought it new 3 months ago, and if it wasn't me, it would have been someone else. It goes into the system, 3 months later, it's broken. That's normal. He's like, yeah. That's why you have stuff with warranties. They break. Graphics cards are no different. I've seen thousands of broken graphics cards. Some of them not very old, like yours. Doesn't mean anything. That's how it is. So like when you've bought just one set of RAM, one motherboard, one CPU, one GPU, and the case to put it in, plus all the cooling components, that's a number of items. If you then buy those items again, another set of RAM on top of that, and then another set of fans, I bought all sorts of more fans, and another graphics card, and another PCIe riser inside it. Each time you buy another item, the statistical likelihood of any of the items being that item that's just faulty goes up. So eventually I've reached that point. One of the items is just a dud. I've got a dud card with a dud memory stick on it.
Right. Well, that's one side of it. Yes, the chaos factor because of unpredictable breaking things, but also the compatibility issue, right? Because every time you do one more thing, it makes the eventual setup even more untested. That's the other factor, really. So it's like it never works. One more thing is always very risky.
Yeah. Well, this will be that last one more thing before it all gets ripped out and put into a completely different computer, in essence. Because that's the only, well, if that one last thing wasn't the one last thing, then there can be no more one last things. Just got to get a new case and do a different computer, albeit with the same components which are common. In other words, if I was to go out and buy a new computer, it would have almost the same components in it. So why not just, if this doesn't solve the problem, it's take all of those components out, put them in a different box with different cooling.
Right. Well, the different cooling might, in any case, be a better idea. I always thought like you should. I did tell you, right, very early on, like, what about water cooling? What about water cooling? But you weren't having any of it.
I didn't have a choice. Wouldn't have any of it, right? I was bought this computer. Someone purchased it for me, and they told me what I was getting. And they were like, do you want to accept my generosity of this computer that I've already ordered for you in this specification or not? And I was like, yes, please. You've ordered me a £5,000 computer. Yep, it's being built right now. So when you're like, well, you wouldn't have any of it. Well, I'm not saying I didn't have a choice in this absolutely overwhelming generosity that I received. So on the one hand, you don't just want to say, well, it's been a month and it still doesn't work, so I'm going to chuck it in the bin. Or rip out all the components and chuck the £1,000 part of it in the bin. No, that seems unreasonable. And when I talked about it with my wife earlier, she was like, the people who you think won't support you because they're bored of you hearing about it will recognise that you've at least put every ounce of effort you could possibly put into making it work. Anyway, I'm here to e-beg. So there's yet another failure in it, and I need money to fix it because I don't have any. That's the bottom line. I've got less than I would have normally because of its failure, because I haven't been live streaming, which has a, for me, significant impact on my general income that I get from YouTube. It's gone down. Now, if that continues, it'll be the end of the debate eventually. There'll just come a point where I'm like, well, it's not bringing any money to keep the roof over the head, so other things are in order, a different job, specifically. Now, maybe that's the aim, you know, for a lot of the anti-flat earthers who would love to see that be the case. But for the people who do actually support me, they're like, no, if it needs resolving, we will support you to resolve it. And in many instances, you've just got to actually put your cap out and go, yeah, this is that time. Yeah, it's the same occasion as last time when I was putting my cap out to buy hard drives. Well, I'm still fixing the PC. It didn't fix the problem. There is still an issue. It's the graphics card in this instance. And if that's not fixed, I will have to buy another case. Now, hopefully back then, I'll have kept this cobbled together PC that's passive, that's not passive with fans in it, running enough to keep my revenue stream going so that I don't have to e-beg. Maybe I can even increase it with some enthusiasm that is currently directed towards a stupid computer rather than making the content on Flat Earth Debate better or editing videos. So, you know, that's the objective to e-begging today, and hopefully I'll achieve my ends by having that level of enthusiasm that I had for Ranty or for whoever else I've done campaigns for in the past. That said, let's have a look, see if we had any campaigns. They are linked in the info box if you're watching after the fact, and you did want to support me, and you love Flat Earth Debate, and you do want to hear me much more enthusiastic about the subject, rather than babbling on about computers and how they're failing all the time, then please hit me up on either PayPal or GiveSendGo, and hopefully I can walk into my computer shop on Tuesday and just say, just buy a replacement. Here's 550 quid. That's how much, admittedly a trade price. Very generous that the guy is doing it, but no profit to him. But that's the cost of just sticking exactly the same thing in again. And it is the right card for the machine. It's a very low powered, but still reasonably powerful in terms of what it can do, but low wattage card, unlike the one that it replaced. And the one that replaced. And the one that failed in the old system. There's been a lot of graphics cards. Still with us, QE?
Say again?
I'm just checking if you're still with me while I go to GoFundMe or PayPal and see if there's anybody else I need to thank.
Yeah, I'm still here for the next couple. I was brushing my teeth, man.
There are several people I need to thank. So thank you to Michael. I won't use full names because I haven't checked that they don't or do want to be anonymous when they've given me money on PayPal.
Right.
So shout out to John. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate your support. He says, I feel your pain. He just does say who is on YouTube, but I don't want to say it just in case that they haven't clarified specifically. Also, Harry, thank you very much indeed. Seriously generous of you. Thank you to Harry. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. He also left me a comment on his GoFundMe on PayPal contribution. He says, get a job. Oh, thank you for that comment on a PayPal donation. That's so kind of you. This is my job. I think I already thanked Magdalena. Did I thank Magdalena already? That's Tinfoil Hat Man. Yes, I did already. Okay, so I've thanked all the people so far. I think there were some contributors on GiveSendGo as well I want to thank. You want to be shouted out? Support me now. Then you'll get shouted out immediately on this live stream. If that's your thing, I will not get the jab. Rhett, who was actually a couple of weeks ago, didn't get a shout out on a live stream as far as I can remember. Same with OBE Lines. Thank you very much for supporting the campaign. It's the same campaign. So there's no reason why you shouldn't get a shout out here now. Along with Jerry and Michael and AmericanERC.com, an anonymous donor. Daniel, oh my God. Samaniego. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Yeah, got it there. For the GiveSendGo campaign. And Sheila, Original D-Rose, another anonymous donor, Michael Khan, and the Adam Meakin. Some of those had been shouted out a couple of weeks ago when this campaign was ongoing. So there we go. Thank you very much to all of you for supporting the GiveSendGo campaign. I really appreciate the support. I'm sure I will get to my campaign total. I've just added on, so I think I was at something like $380 on that campaign, which covered the cost of the hard drives, and I've just raised it to 925. So that's to cover the cost of the GPU. That's about it. Don't know what else to tell you about my e-begging. Did I mention Russian vids? I think I covered that already.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything else to cover. Anything you guys want to add? I've done, what is this? An hour and a half of e-begging. And given that I know the computer will fail within an hour to 2 hours, it might be an idea to actually have a nice outro to the show, so it's rounded up reasonably well. Obviously, if it crashes, that just It supports the idea that you need to support me immediately. That said, it would be nice to have a professionally rounded out show, I might be able to do that. Any words before I do that? Arwin, QE, thank you for coming. By the way.
See you on Ballbusters.
Yes, I'll do a proper
That's
plug.
right. And the Flat Earth Early Bird Show in the morning.
I'll do proper plugs. So it's Be Here or Be Sphere for the Flat Earth Early Bird Show on the Arwin channel, ARWIJN, only on YouTube. And in the meantime, Be Here or Be Sphere for Ballbusters on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, only on YouTube. Please watch the ads.
What time are these shows?
That would be 2 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. UK, or 6 a.m. Central, 1 p.m. UK for Arwin's Early Bird Show. Is that right?
No, in the weekend it's 2 p.m. Amsterdam time. In the weekdays it's 1 p.m. Amsterdam time.
So 12 o'clock UK time, 1 o'clock on the weekend.
Yep.
Or 12, what is it? It's like 5 a.m.? Really? For the bloody hell, for the Americans.
Yeah.
5 a.m. if you're up. Wait, it's the early bird, I suppose.
Exactly. It's
5 a.m.
actually the early bird.
Yeah, I'm never there. There's good reason.
You're probably counting the Z's at 5 a.m., right?
Shit, I'm counting the Z's during your show most times.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, but at least I'm at a reasonable time. It's like 9 a.m. or something, right?
Yeah, I'm on a really bad train. I'm on the 2 a.m. go to sleep train right now. I got to get off this train. It's the late train. It's not a good train.
I know that train.
I know that train.
Yeah, I bet you do. But I have to get off of this. It's friggin' pathetic.
Yeah, me too. I want to go to bed about 10:30 after putting the kids to bed an hour or two earlier, maybe a bit longer. And that would be like nice. So you wake up refreshed the following morning at about 6 a.m. when the kids come and jump on you. And then later do the show. As opposed to go to bed at 2 a.m. having stared at a dead character's corpse and temperatures on the bottom of my taskbar for 4 straight hours. And then go, yeah, I'm winning. I've got this computer. My wife keeps telling me, don't ever tell me that you've got this computer stable again. I don't want to hear it. And I'm like, I think I've won. I think I've got this computer stable. She's like, I'll fall over immediately then.
Yeah. Yeah, you're crying wolf tours. You ain't putting up with that shit anymore.
No. But you do. You think you've won. You've got it tuned. You've tested it. It hasn't fallen over. You go, well, I've won. Until you haven't. Anyway, enough of my procrastination with this rounding out. Please hit me up on PayPal, Give, Send, Go, and obviously a massive thank you to all of you who supported me on PayPal up until this point. And I did a proper shout out on the uncut and after show version of this show for all of my patrons, who I obviously, more than anything, want to thank because they're the people who are keeping the revenue stream going. That's the point in keeping the graphics card going, so I can keep earning a living. And obviously to e-beg to earn that living is to thank the support I get from the people on Patreon. So I did that at the beginning of the show. I'm going to do it at the end of this show because they're as important, if not more so, than all the people who contribute to keep the show going with things like graphics cards. A lot of them are the Patreons anyway. You know what I'm talking about. So with that, I'll say another massive thank you to all of you who have hit me up on PayPal thus far. If you did want to do it after the fact, or if you're watching on an after show, then great. Stay tuned because we will have a little after show to follow. If you are watching live, though, this is going to be where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to Quantum Eraser and Arwin for making this impromptu live stream possible. Can't believe the system's actually stacked up nicely enough to give me this opportunity. Thank you to all of you in the live stream for hitting the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and of course, contributing to my e-begging endeavours. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!